And, I really like to start my day off this way. Number one, because it's a very, very private, intimate time with me and the Lord. It's hours and hours before anybody else wakes up. It's hours and hours before anybody reaches out to me. It's a very secluded, private time with the Lord, and it's where I honestly get my most precious revelations. So for me, it's an anchor. And no matter what I'm doing, if I'm traveling early that day, then I'll wake up earlier and I'll make sure that I get that time in. For me, that time is very non-negotiable. As usual, just start out every morning with either kombucha. I'll do 8 ounces of kombucha. So I'll do either a whole lemon or a whole lime mixed with about 25 ounces of water, give or take, just to help clean out the body. The body, as I've said before, is the most toxic in the morning. And for me, it's not something that I sip on as like a beverage. It's more of a mission for me. So I'll just go ahead and down it. So these are the broccoli sprouts. So we started these on Sunday. It's the last 36 hours that they really probably almost double in size if things are going right. So, I'm hoping to get these up to, at least 75% of the way up. It's Thursday now. We have to water them this morning. We'll water them tonight. And then I'll decide based on where they're at if I want to water them again tomorrow morning and harvest them tomorrow night, or if I'll harvest them in the morning. We'll just kind of see what's going on. Come on. She's hiding. Man, you see my shirt?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so every morning, I get up about 4, maybe 4:30, but within about 15 minutes, I'm here sitting down at my desk. So now I'm gonna get into this week's Torah portion. The word Torah is translated throughout English Bibles as law, but that's really not a good translation. What it means best is teaching. It's actually used all throughout the proverb. My son, listen to my teaching. That's actually what Torah is. And so the Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible, known as the Torah of Moses. Today I'm going to be in Genesis, which in Hebrew is Bereshit, chapter 27. And for this, I do read out of what's called the Tikkun. This book is only the first 5 books of the Bible. It's written the way you would find it in a Torah scroll, an original Hebrew Torah scroll. And so on the right side of each page, you have the letters with what's called the nikudot. It's all the dots and lines that are surrounding the letters. Those are vowels, and it's the pronunciation for the word the way it was passed down traditionally. But then on the left side, notice that there's no nikudot. There's no dots, lines, vowel markers, so on and so forth. It's literally just the letters. This is going to be exactly how it's written in a Torah scroll. I started learning Hebrew back in 2019. Graduated from Holy Language Institute under Izzy Avraham, but then I decided to really take it to a new level. I really wanted to master biblical Hebrew grammar. Now when it comes to the things of the New Testament, what I actually started doing after I was really mastering biblical Hebrew grammar, I wanted to learn Aramaic. And the reason is because in the Tanakh is the Old Testament, there's 269 verses that are in Aramaic in the Tanakh. And so you take like the book of Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, and Psalm 1, if you were to basically add up all those books, those are not all written in Aramaic, but my point is if you add up all those books, it's like taking all those books in Aramaic. It's a good chunk of the Tanakh. That's one of the reasons why now I started learning Aramaic. But not only that, but also for the New Testament, so what I study, even though I'm reading this in Hebrew, I always keep this next to me, which is just the New Testament. That's all this is. It's just the New Testament. And what it is that it's Aramaic on this page, but on this page, it's the Hebrew translated from the Aramaic. These two Hebrews are actually different. This is a Hebrew translated from the Greek, which is good to read and always have, so on and so forth. But in my opinion, it's not something that I put above this. when it comes to wanting to get down to, what is the literal word that's used here or certain things, I always come back to the Aramaic Peshitta. This is, in my opinion, from a historical perspective, a linguistic perspective, and from a contextual perspective, much more reliable. You start to see a bunch of linguistic patterns and play on words and so on and so forth that you're just not going to be able to get in the translations. And the reason is just because it's very hard to translate Hebrew. Hebrew is very pictorial, and so is Aramaic. And so it's very pictorial in the sense that you can't really translate it literally, or it will sound kind of foolish in English. You read it and you get a clear picture in your mind as to what the text is saying, and you have to try your best to be able to translate it. If you translate it literally, according to grammar and syntax, it doesn't line up. It doesn't make sense. The other reason too is because one Aramaic word can mean many, many different things. One Hebrew word. Just in Hebrew alone, there's at least 7 verbal stems. And so you can take one word, and just because it means one thing in one stem doesn't mean it's going to mean the same thing in another stem. It could mean something totally different. Or you just flip things with the vowels and it means something totally different. So you take the word Kodesh and it means holy, but you can flip the vowels and keep the same word and it means a male prostitute. And so these words can be totally changed based on the pronunciation, which is the reason why the sides with the vowels, the nikudot that I showed about, is very, very important, because we're getting the way that it was read and pronounced even from the times of Moses. This is the tradition that was kept very, very carefully. However, it's also important for us to be able to be flexible with it. So you'll say, okay, it says this according to the vowel, but it's also the same word for this, and it's giving us something deeper than what we can get in just a simple English translation. So this was a passion of mine that I started back in 2019, and since then it's really been a major tool for what Revelation Church, for my ministry and my teachings, has become known with, is the linguistic perspective, but also as it's influenced with the revelation and the power of the Holy Spirit. And so today I'm about to be getting into Genesis 27, and I'll be starting in verse 28 and going forward. All right, so now I'm gonna hit my breakfast. It's about 7 o'clock. This is actually a little late for me for breakfast. I usually do breakfast between like 6 and 6:30, 7 I'd say at the latest. So I'm gonna do kind of like what would be a second staple for me, which is oatmeal, and I'll show you kind of how I make my oatmeal. I kind of mix it up. We'll grab the oatmeal here, and because of how much stuff I put on top of it and everything I put in it, I actually don't do a ton of oatmeal. I only do about a half cup. Now I always put a scoop of protein in there, and so it would generally be, with the ones that I have with me, it would be like between the banana nut bread protein or the chocolate. I'm probably gonna do chocolate today. This is pretty much my go-to protein. It's vegan V-Pro. They're a really good plant-based protein. And so what I'll do is just a scoop of this. This is a chocolate bar flavor. And I'll just let it mix in with the oatmeal. And I do this before I heat it up in the microwave with water. And I'll do other mix-ins before I put it in there as well. So I'll still do my superfoods, my chlorella, spirulina, and black maca. And I don't do a real strict measurement with it. I just put a decent amount in there. Flaxseed, chia seed, hemp seed. These are superfood seeds. They're incredible. Easy to incorporate in anything. And I always keep a mixture. And so sometimes, I might do a nut milk, which I do an unsweetened almond milk, or maybe an unsweetened vanilla cashew milk or something like that. But today I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to do water. And I'll make sure everything's mixed up. All right, so now we're coming out of the microwave. Although it looks green and whatnot, it's just because of the spirulina and chlorella. It doesn't add any flavor to it, but it might change the color. It's real hot right now, which is kind of my goal. I like to get it really, really hot. And the reason is because although I didn't have enough berries, frozen berries, to make my acai bowl, I do have a little bit of which I'll throw in there, and that way it'll not only cool down the oatmeal, but it will... I don't like to eat berries frozen and fruit frozen a lot of times like that unless I make it into an ice cream. Some people do. I don't, especially for breakfast. So it will start to defrost the berries and cool down the oatmeal. And now I'll just choose my toppings, you know, and these can change. These are really interchangeable. It's not the same for me every day. It's just kind of the same structure. But what I'll do is a banana, and I'll do these kiwis. I'll just do 2 kiwi. And you might notice I do eat the kiwi with the skin on. I actually never used to, and then it was probably about 1.5 years ago. I was in Houston at an HEB, and one of the guys that I was with, we got golden kiwis, and he said, "Man, eat it with the skin on." And I tried it. And I know what it sounds like. I probably would have never done this if he didn't tell me to. I actually ate it with the skin on. The texture, none of that was weird. It was actually really good, and I realized it was actually meant to be eaten with the skin on. In fact, about 50% of the fiber is in the skin. So eating the skin is really an important thing from a nutritional standpoint, but also it does not change the flavor. If you just try it, even a bite of it, you'll realize, wow, it doesn't really mess with it. The texture is not messed with at all. So I'll do a few figs. And then every week, for the most part now, I make these energy balls, which I got 2 left, so I'll use those. These are just oatmeal, dates, raw cacao powder, and cinnamon. So 3 ingredients and then the cinnamon, so 4 ingredients total. But you know, I'll do just a tad bit of almond butter as well. This is the homemade almond butter that I do. And that will be my breakfast today. One of the big things that I'm super interested in, I've studied a lot on over the last few years, but really drilled in and studied deeply the last 1.5 years, and especially this year with, you know, certain people like gastroenterologist Dr. Will Bolshewitz or MD Dr. Michael Greger. What I really study a lot is the gut microbiome. I'm very, very big on the gut microbiome. It is completely connected with your brain, with your mood, with your energy, your depression, you know, all these different things that can go on, your serotonin, your dopamine. In fact, serotonin and dopamine levels, you know, which are your feel-good hormones or your happy hormones, you know, 50% of one of them and 90% of one of them originates in your gut. And in fact, about 70 to 80% of your immune system, you know, resides in your gut. And so the gut microbiome is huge. And so one of the things that is really trending right now is fiber. And, you know, not all fiber is created equal. When we think of fiber, a lot of times we think of, you know, something that you might put in your drink and it helps you become regular if you haven't been going to the restroom very well, so on and so forth. But, you know, there's soluble fiber, there's insoluble fiber, and every plant food, every whole food that's a plant has fiber in it. And these different fibers feed a different gut microbe in your gut microbiome, okay? You have all these different gut microbes. It's like an ecosystem. And so with the whole food plant-based like myself, I always say that diversity is the key. And this is actually what doctors will tell you as well, that study nutrition very, very deeply, is it's a plant diversity that is actually key. If you ask biologists, what is the single most important indicator of a healthy ecosystem, and this could be the Amazon rainforest, it could be the Great Barrier Reef, the single most important outcome to determine the health of an ecosystem is its diversity. The amount of animals, the amount of plants, all these different things, because each of them play a role in keeping things whole and proper. The same thing is discussed for the gut microbiome. And so it's why a diversity of plants is good. You know, you can eat apples all day, which is a healthy food, but it's not going to be better for you than eating apples, bananas, pears, peaches, fruits, vegetables. So, my diet really consists of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, and fermented foods. Okay, and so all these different things with fiber, what it's going to do is it's going to feed a different gut microbe. So if I have bananas, or I have apples, or I have whole grains, or whatever it is, the fiber in these foods feed a different gut microbe, and it will produce short chain fatty acids, which is really where so many of the healing qualities for our bodies actually takes place. You have your prebiotic, which is the fiber, the postbiotic, which is what the prebiotic is feeding, and the postbiotic turns the prebiotic into what's called a postbiotic, okay, which are the SCFAs, short chain fatty acids. And so this is a really, really important thing for the gut microbiome, for your mood, for satiety, for your energy, so on and so forth. So this has been something now that I've become a very strong believer in, as I've seen its benefits in my life, and also as I've seen its benefits in the lives of those around me. So, for me, I've always had a very sensitive gut. And so if I eat something that's not right, I'm very sensitive to it, and it will make me bogged down. It will make my energy go down. It will start to mess with my mind. This was before I ever knew about the science of it. It would start to bring like a little bit of like a depressed or lowered down mind, if you will. And then come to realize that 50% and 90% of your dopamine and serotonin is originated in your gut. And all of the science that's behind it really started to explain the reason why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And so, for me to wake up at 4 a.m., 4:30 in the morning every day, and to be able to work out and have long days and, study and have the cognitive function and everything that I do, for me, I have to fuel my body properly. So this is just a little bit on fiber. The subject of fiber is so expansive. In fact, the doctors that I follow can write books and hours and hours and hours upon it, but it's much more than just going to the restroom. It's actually about feeding your gut and releasing the short chain fatty acids and all the things that come about as a byproduct from that.
He really looks out for the farm. We have certain animals over here like goats, and we have certain animals like chickens, goats, stuff like that. But he protects them from like the coyotes. There'll be herds of coyotes at nighttime and stuff like that that'll come, and so Czar really takes care of that. Actually, before I came out here, there was a story about how he took 5 coyotes at one time. So he's such a teddy bear.
Hey, buddy.
He's such a teddy bear.
You are.
And Kaya and here, best friends, but at the same time, he's very, very good at his job.
Yeah.
And so today, I'm gonna go hit some shoulders. We'll hit some abs, and then we'll do some conditioning. And I will show you the best fat burner on the market today. Everybody wants to know what's the best fat burner. I will show you the most proven and best fat burner that you can possibly find today. Also, I'm hoping to be able to give a couple insights to kind of what I do for core. I kind of stick to the basics, but just certain things that I have found over the years that have, been a little bit more beneficial for me. Even back whenever I was competing, for Mr. Texas, I was 5th for Mr. Texas back. I was 22, so it was 2016. But even since then, now that I've changed my train to more athletic, style training and conditioning and so on and so forth. Just things that still work yesterday and today, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, and I warm up my shoulders the same way every time. I take your 5s and I do 10 side raises, 10 front raises, 10 shoulder presses twice. Trying to get the shoulder workout done within half an hour so that I can really do abs and conditioning. I'm just going to be doing supersets, which means that I do 2 exercises together. So I'll go from like this, what I'm about to do is upright rows to rear delt flies. Upright rows, rear delt flies. Upright rows, rear delt flies. And I'll just kind of do that throughout my workout with different exercises. So when I do the upright rows, if you're not careful, you can hurt yourself. And so the way that I do it, notice that I don't lead with my wrists. My elbows are always on top of the movement. Your elbows should always be above your wrists. Keep it close, and elbows are always on top. The second you start going like this, you're not working what you want to be working anymore within your delt. So always lead with your elbows. And as usual, I do like 3 to 4 sets of each movement. And on the last set, which this is gonna be 4th set for upright rows, I'll do a drop set. So I'm gonna max out like at a heavy 10 to 12, good quality reps, and then drop it like a third of the weight and try to get another 10 to 12. So one of the things that I focus on, I specifically say I am bodybuilding, not weightlifting. Weightlifting just means that I'm seeing how much weight I can lift from point A to point B. For example, when I'm doing my side raises, I'm very calculated in my movement. I could be swinging and things like that, but that's weightlifting. I'm trying to work the muscle in an isolated way. I've had people that come in and work out with me that are college football players. They're used to lifting 60s, 70s, 80s, 100s, 120s. I've literally had a college football player come in, and the way that I was training, he was using the 20s and 30s, and on side raises, he was going down to the 3s and 5s. It's about the isolation to sculpt the body, rather than a weightlifting mentality, which can be very egotistical. So for abs, I really keep it pretty simple. I don't do all the fancy stuff. I do things that are generally straight. I don't do all the curvy stuff, except for maybe some bicycles. I'll do leg lifts, crunches, V-ups, leg lifts that are vertical, things like this that are really just contracting the core, going straight up and down like this, rather than a ton of twists and this, that, and the other. So, those are very effective, those are very tough, and they really build up your core in a strong way. I gotta say, I'm thankful for the Lord, the path that God has brought me down anyway, although I don't do drugs anymore. I went down a drug addict path, alcoholic, gang, stuff like that. Helps you really be able to relate to people,
Tattoos? Yeah.
All these different things, because it's like, I'm a pastor, but I give my life to the Lord, but it wasn't always that way, And so it helps you be able to relate to people and still have these different flavors that can minister to people and everything else. So.